There are plenty of videos on TikTok and YouTube about how hard it is to find a job these days, including criticisms of popular job search sites like LinkedIn and Indeed. But there is one aspect of the job search that hasn't been looked at very much, and I would like to address it. There are all of these job acquisition experts with all kinds of advice telling you how to find a job. Some of them charge a fee, but others either work for the government-funded American Job Center or with some other nonprofit group. If you follow their advice, chances are that you will become further demoralized as you fail to find a new job despite following their advice to the letter. I've encountered these job acquisition experts at various American Job Center offices and at various nonprofits that are affiliated with an American Job Center office for the last several years. I've listened to their advice for years, and I tried following their advice to the letter, only to have it fail for me and for many others. All I have to say to them is this: your advice sucks. It is outdated, and I seriously doubt that any of you have actually kept up on the actual hiring trends. The other thing is that these experts have spent most of their retired careers working at either an American Job Center office or a nonprofit, and they haven't had to find a new job in years because they have stable employment where they are. They are so far removed from the plight of the unemployed and underemployed who are constantly worried about how they will be able to get enough money to pay rent, utilities, and other living expenses. How bad is their advice? Well, I remember the one time when I attended a workshop on how to jumpstart our career search at a local American Job Center office, and the workshop leader was urging us to tell our story while writing our resume and cover letter and engaging in networking with others. Tell my story? Sure, I have a story to tell. Let me see. My mother forced me to take 2 years of typing in high school, even though I had only wanted to take 1 year so I would learn the keyboard. And typing 2 was a completely useless class because it went through the same lessons as typing 1, but my mother insisted I take it anyway. I was a journalism major in college, only to graduate at the same time as media consolidation was going on, where corporations were buying up local newspapers and TV stations, which resulted in hiring fewer reporters and more MBA types to make their acquisitions look good on Wall Street. At the same time, my parents and my then fiancé were all pressuring me to just take an office job and give up my dreams of going into journalism. So I capitulated and went through a series of office jobs, which all turned out to be short-lived because I would get laid off due to things like a toxic work environment and corporate mergers. I married the same fiancé who joined my parents in pressuring me to just work office jobs. I tried taking evening and weekend workshop courses, learning new skills like desktop publishing, but they never led to a better job for me. My husband had a well-paying job as a software engineer with NASA, which kept us financially afloat through recessions and my job losses. My husband treated me well during our marriage. We were basically happy together, and he told me numerous times that he loved me until I underwent hip surgery. He left me for another woman just 3 months after my surgery when I had not fully recovered, and, oh yeah, I have a story to tell, but how can I fit all that on a resume or cover letter? On top of it, would any prospective employer even care about my story, especially if it was completely unrelated for the position that they are trying to fill? Then there were the workshops and programs I went through that seemed to emphasize more about finding ourselves and discovering what careers we could go into. While there's nothing wrong with a little bit of self-introspection and searching for potential careers, at the end there needs to be a way of actually hooking up with employers who are providing these jobs, along with going through additional training if necessary. I went to workshops on how to do networking because the advice says that networking is the best way to find new opportunities. I went to one networking event at an American Job Center where they announced that some of the people doing the networking were going to be recruiters. So I went to the event where they were doing some kind of a round robin where we were assigned a color and we would join a small group based on that color, and we would talk to each other for a few minutes. Then I would switch to another small group where we talked to each other for a few minutes. Then I would switch again to another small group and so on. During the course of the event, every other person I spoke with was also unemployed. It wasn't until the end of the event that I learned that there was only one recruiter who was present. That's right, just one person out of the approximately 40 people who participated was a recruiter, which means that I had spent the entire time networking with people who didn't have any knowledge of jobs because they were also unemployed. After the workshop ended, I gave the only recruiter present a copy of my resume, but I never heard from her again. Despite that disaster, I tried again at another networking event at the same American Job Center office, only this time there were no recruiters among the participants. I tried one more time when I did a virtual networking event during the COVID-19 pandemic that was being held by the same American Job Center office. It was held on January 6, 2021. So here I was, networking virtually via Zoom while being unaware of what was going on at the U.S. Capitol building at the same time. There were no recruiters at that event, so I was networking with people who were also out of work. Then there is the frequent advice these professional employment experts give, where they emphasize how LinkedIn is important in your job search, along with workshops on how to make your LinkedIn profile so awesome that recruiters will notice you. Except LinkedIn has completely gone downhill since Microsoft bought it. There are a number of scam jobs on that platform. I know because I've interviewed with them after I responded to their job posts on LinkedIn. I've even made this video about one of those scam jobs. What's worse is that LinkedIn has done nothing to weed out these scam jobs, even though they charge money for their various premium account levels. With the money they charge for these various premium accounts, you think that they will use some of that revenue to hire moderators to weed out these scam jobs. But they don't do anything. I guess they need that premium money to pay their boardroom executives 7-figure salaries. Then there is LinkedIn's gaming platform. That's right, you can now play video games on LinkedIn. In fact, I get notices from LinkedIn encouraging me to play video games. No, I don't go on LinkedIn to play video games. There are plenty of other sites and apps that I can download where I can play games. I tried the Open to Work banner on my profile pic, and all I attracted were DMs from people trying to sell me resume writing services. These people were such a nuisance that I ended up removing that Open to Work banner, and the spam from the resume writers simply stopped. But I still get spam DMs from various schools encouraging me to register for their MBA programs, which is also annoying. And there are the increase in posts that are less about their current jobs and careers and more about their political leaning or personal life. Here's an example of a recent LinkedIn post that I actually found. I had to say goodbye to my dog Shorty, pronounced Shawty, in an unmistakable Baltimore way. I didn't know the phrase crossing the rainbow bridge until it was time to help him do it, graciously, lovingly, and on his terms. Like many single people without two-legged children, I volunteered for the job of raising 4 legs, and it changed everything. Shorty gave me routine, structure, from adventurous hikes through Maryland's edges, waterfalls, forests, white-tailed deer he swore he could catch, to daily walks around the park. He imposed a rhythm on my life. Food rituals, new toys, bedding upgrades, long drives for the one brand of food he tolerated. We walked everywhere. In the quest, in the mud, in the morning sun, I found myself. And then we got older. No more big hikes, no more chasing deer, just 2 short walks a day, half a mile sniff stops, meeting kids who loved to pet him, learning where he liked to pee, listening to him whimper in the grass but insist we keep going. His spine stiffened, his legs shook. Still, he hunted with his eyes. The rabbit still had his respect. As Shorty's routine changed, so did mine. I learned to find joy in the short walks. Connection in community. I met neighbors. I slowed down. I paid attention. And then he crossed the rainbow bridge. Now I am faced with another routine change. And here's a lesson: when life shifts your rhythm by loss, by growth, by circumstance, it's not just disruption, it's data, it's feedback, it's opportunity. This is the work I do every day. Adapt quickly to new constraints, find value in the discomfort, transfer time into energy, strategy, use change as creative fuel. Forced change is inevitable. What you do with it is strategic. Thank you, Shorty, for the years, for the walks, for the life lessons wrapped in love. I'm sorry to hear about her dog's passing, but seriously, this post would have been more appropriate for Facebook or her own personal blog, not LinkedIn. This post is not an anomaly. There are plenty of posts that are similar in tone like that, where the person posts about incredibly personal matters that have nothing to do with the workplace. Here's one about a woman's personal child custody battle. Remember my pineapple-holding disabled son? That big cutie pie? The secret I hide is I haven't seen him in 11 months, and not by my choice. Him and my other son are the central weapons being used in a high-conflict divorce I am trapped in, and I'm reaching out to my network for help, SOS. If you are an expert in parental alienation or custody/guardianship disputes, especially with special needs children, or have personal experience being the target of alienation, I could really use your insight. I am on the losing end of a vicious war in the fight for my children and need some support and help. I'm especially looking for resources, experts, or support in the state of Maine, but any guidance is welcome. Please DM me if you're willing to share or connect. Thank you. #alienation, #custody, #guardianship. Then there's this post that is all about this guy's son's soccer-themed 7th birthday party. Friday feels in full flow. H turned 7. I always find H and L's birthday a big reminder for why I do what I do. To see their little faces light up. It's not for the fancy cars, expensive holidays, or a shiny watch, which are all nice. Instead, it's to provide for my beautiful little family. Time spent, experiences shared, and birthdays savored. Happy birthday, young man. Your daddy is very proud of you. #cake for breakfast. #happy Friday, folks. This is how bad LinkedIn has gotten. A lot of times you'll find a job on LinkedIn that looks promising, and there's a button that says Easy Apply, which is supposed to mean that when you click on it, LinkedIn will automatically send your profile to the potential employer. Recently, I went to a virtual job fair on Zoom where a LinkedIn expert said not to use the Easy Apply button because your profile will fall into the proverbial black hole and it will never reach the potential employer. So that explains why I've never received a response to the times when I use that Easy Apply button. But if the Easy Apply button doesn't really connect the job seeker with the hiring company, then why have the Easy Apply button in the first place? What's more, there are alternatives to LinkedIn, which were created by people who became frustrated with LinkedIn. One is Peerless.io, which definitely reminds me of what LinkedIn was like before it was purchased by Microsoft. It consists of people talking about their work and showing off their projects. There are no influencers talking about politics or their fabulous vacations in exotic places or their lavish kids' birthday parties. Peerless just focuses on networking and providing job leads. So far, I've only tried Peerless, and I like what I've seen. I've heard that there are other people who are building more LinkedIn alternatives, but I haven't gotten to them yet. I might do a future video where I review these alternate LinkedIn sites if I have the time to do so. And then there's the other favorite platform that these job acquisition specialists love to recommend, Indeed. I've tried Indeed, and I never got anywhere with that website. I learned the hard way that many of the listings on Indeed are either ghost jobs, scam jobs, or the listing is simply out of date and the position has since been filled. Frequently, you have to cross-reference with the website of the actual company that's supposedly doing the hiring to see if that job is really still available or not, which creates more work for the job seeker. Like LinkedIn, Indeed also has an apply button, where you can send your resume only to have it fall into the proverbial black hole where it never reaches a company's hiring manager. Indeed has an option to upload your resume where employers can supposedly find you, but that never worked for me either. AARP has a back-to-work 50-plus program that supposedly helps seniors find jobs, but I haven't had much luck with their job board. Recently, AARP announced that it is partnering with someone else to help seniors find work. That someone else is none other than, wait for it folks, Indeed. Expect to see more people trying Indeed based on the AARP partnership, only to get totally frustrated in finding work. I became even more incensed after I was accepted into a program with a nonprofit group. In theory, this program is supposed to train people for the administrative and professional field. Basically, it was training to work in an office. I was initially leery about the fact that this course lasts 8 weeks because I've worked in office jobs in the past, and there was never anything complicated about any of them. My finances were also hitting a dangerously low point, and I really needed to find work as soon as possible. I decided to enroll anyway because I really needed to work again so I can bring in money and support myself, and I was willing to do whatever it takes to make that a reality. I assumed that the program was going to focus exclusively on hands-on training. Wrong. From 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., we would sit in a classroom where we underwent lessons that were similar to the kind of workshops I previously taken through the American Job Center, such as doing self-reflection. What really alarmed me was when we devoted a morning class session to going on ONET to look for careers that suit us. The program was supposed to be about retraining for administrative office work, and everyone who was in that class had already decided to work in that field. So why were we required to search for careers if we had already made up our minds as to what kind of jobs we wanted to work in? What's more, there was practical training in the Microsoft Office suite, but it was a self-paced training that was not even part of the morning session. We could either opt to stay from 1:30 to 3:30 taking the self-paced courses, or take the classes from anywhere else via online. Why wasn't the Microsoft Office training part of the live in-person training instead of all of these types of finding yourself exercises? It is possible to teach Microsoft Office as a live lesson. I know, because when I was working in an old job back in the 1990s, I was sent to a training facility where I learned the earlier versions of Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint in a live class that was given by an instructor. The lessons were hands-on in that the instructor would show on an overhead how to do a certain function, and we were expected to try it ourselves with the provided computers. I only lasted a week in that program until I decided to throw in the towel. I simply wanted to get enough hands-on retraining along with help in finding a new job so I could work again, not spend long hours taking a hard look at myself. I've done that before in other programs, and none of the self-exploration I did had ever gotten me any closer to landing a new job. What's more, none of the programs I've gone through with various American Job Center offices and nonprofits have ever taken a hard look at the elephant in the room. I'm talking about AI, artificial intelligence. I know it's a controversial subject matter because of the cases of companies using work done by artists, illustrators, and writers to train their AI program without the permission from the original creators. But it doesn't do any good to ignore AI either, because there is a reason why these companies are so eager to include AI in nearly everything from paraphrasing Google search results to composing social media posts. On top of it, AI has been replacing white-collar jobs that used to be done by humans. Instead of hiring a person to perform clerical tasks like data entry or answering phone calls, a company will use AI to do the same thing. Recently, I've heard of AI programs that can now do coding, which will lead companies to use AI to code instead of hiring human programmers. And all of this is just the tip of the iceberg. I could easily do a separate video about AI and how pervasive it has become in recent years. Why have so many companies fallen madly in love with AI? For one thing, AI is always available to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. AI never gets sick. AI never asks for personal time off. AI never questions the boss's decision. AI can get work done much faster than a human. AI doesn't need a paycheck. AI will never ask for a raise. AI will never organize workers to go on strike. In short, AI is the perfect employee for corporations. For years, companies have used the applicant tracking system to automatically weed out resumes while inadvertently weeding out resumes of potential employees who could have been an asset to the company. AI can not only automatically weed out resumes at much faster rates, but it can also do the kind of tasks that a person working in human resources used to do. Here is how pervasive AI has gotten. Not too long ago, I had a job interview where my interviewer was an AI program. In fact, I was told in advance that my interview was going to be done through AI. The AI program spoke in a male voice that sounded very human. There was nothing robotic sounding about his voice. I was required to wear earphones with a microphone attached in order to provide the best results of my answers to the AI's questions. I have to say it was an interesting experience because the AI program was very understanding of my answers and it even displayed empathy at times. I had to remind myself that my interviewer was not even human and it was only showing empathy because it was programmed that way. If I had applied for that same job 5 or 10 years earlier and I was able to get my resume past the applicant tracking system, I would have interviewed with a human. It's quite possible that depending on the person or situation, I could casually mention that I'm an alumni of the same university as a hiring manager, or mention someone that we both know in common, which is something that you cannot do with an AI interviewer. Now, some places are starting to implement AI to take the place of a human hiring manager, and more companies will only begin to use AI for job interviews to screen candidates instead of humans. It's quite possible that AI will be the one to decide who will get hired without the job candidate ever meeting with another human during the interview process. Unfortunately, these job acquisition experts don't even realize this, so they are giving people the same job search advice as years earlier while not even mentioning how AI is now being involved in making the hiring decisions. I have some better ideas on how the American Job Center offices and various nonprofits can better help the unemployed and underemployed find work. 1. Give a quiz or a test that measures a person's natural abilities. At least it will provide a baseline to the job seeker as to what fields to pursue, what kind of training will be needed, and where to start looking for work. 2. Match the person's natural abilities with what jobs are available right now. Let's say a person likes to work with their hands. The quiz or test provides a list of jobs that would be a perfect fit for the person. Let's say the two of the top jobs on the list that can tap into the job seeker's natural abilities are as an art sculptor and a plumber. Do a cross-reference in both fields. Let's say that there are more job opportunities in plumbing than in art sculpting. In fact, let's say that there is a huge demand for plumbers right now. The logical thing to do is to provide funding to retrain that person as a plumber, which would immediately lead to a new job, and that person would go back to being a productive member of society. 3. Provide paid apprenticeships, especially to people who are retraining for a new line of work. Ideally, these apprenticeships would last at least anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, and they would not only provide a worker with new skills, but they will also provide experience, which the worker can then put on their resume. 4. Stop acting as if LinkedIn is the only way to network and find work. There are alternatives out there. I know, because I've used at least one of them, and it is way better than LinkedIn. 5. Stop ignoring AI. More companies are utilizing it, and it's time to start letting people know about how certain fields that used to be plentiful in job opportunities, such as clerical work, are now harder to get due to AI. 6. No more intense self-introspection exercises or urging people to tell their stories or teaching people how to network their way into a new job or teaching people how to use LinkedIn to find work. All of these efforts are total time wasters that end up not leading to a new job. Just train the person for whatever fields are needing workers right now, provide help in finding a job for that person, and get that person back to work as soon as possible. Unless the American Job Center and these nonprofits have a vested interest in continuing to dish out the same useless advice in order to remain in business. You know, kind of like medicine in the United States, where it is more profitable to come out with new treatments and medications to slow down or control cancer than to come out with a definitive cure for cancer, because if cancer can be cured, there will not be any demand for treatments and medications. Could it be more profitable to simply regurgitate useless advice that simply do not work in order to keep the unemployed and underemployed dependent on their programs? Yeah, I know it sounds like a conspiracy theory, and I hope I'm wrong, yet these organizations are not paying any attention to the rise of AI, nor how ineffective Indeed and LinkedIn have become in finding new jobs. They ignore AI while urging people to continue to use Indeed and LinkedIn. It just doesn't make any sense. If you like this video, please feel free to like, share, and leave a comment. If you want to see more from me, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a nice day.